The first rap and roast appeared in the wild outside of US All-Stars, and it was somewhere between highly successful and different. This is the first official time that a queen has been eliminated to this particular challenge. And in modern Drag Race, that's kind of unheard of. Most of the challenges we see in the rotation of Drag Race these days are challenges that have been around the block a couple times, have seen queens won and eliminated in them, but the rap and roast has only ever rewarded top 2 queens. So it was interesting to see the dynamics completely change with the outcome of this challenge. Hi, hello everyone, my name is Jer, and the gym beat me up today, and it is 93 degrees outside. Y'all are getting tank tops for a while. Today we are talking about Drag Race Down Under vs. the World, episode 5, the Rap and Roast. If you had told me a couple of months ago that I was gonna look forward to Down Under vs. the World before I looked forward to watching any other franchise, I wouldn't have believed you. And after the train wreck that's happening in Drag Race France, Down Under vs. the World has been a guiding North Star. A lot of storylines are starting to come to a head this week. We're seeing Michael and Lala be a little more perceptive of the fact that all the international queens are whittling down. The Down Under queens are very interconnected. Flor is starting to shift sides, and Art and Vibe are noticing that she's not as aligned with them as they thought, and I think that's good gameplay strategy. I hope that Flor makes it several more episodes, because if she gets eliminated soon, I'm gonna be devastated. But I have a feeling they're gonna be aiming their sights at Flor, since she seems like now someone who is an international, and it's no longer Down Under versus the world. It's Art and Vibe against the room. Art has the most wins, and everyone is cognizant of that. And Art is starting to get worried that she's gonna get eliminated the moment that she gets in the bottom, because she's a threat. And I understand that fear, but also everyone's been playing, for the most part, fair up until now. And the spirit and vibe of this episode was with each other, starting with the queens really trying to rattle Art's cage and get her in her head, making her think that she's gonna be out very soon the moment they have a chance to. On the runway, Michelle calls all 6 queens forward as the tops and the bottoms, just to make sure that Jade knows that she is the only safe contestant in that room. When it comes to calling who the bottom 2 are, Michelle tells the bottom 3 queens, y'all are in the bottom, no surprise. Art, you're safe. Just messing with people today. And even Lala Ree gave a pretty extended speech on who she was gonna send home, making Flor think that she was out, only to pull that she was actually eliminating Coco, which was also a gag. But according to her and Michael's gameplay, I think it was the right move, even if it hurt me. This week, the queens are tasked with a rap and roast, and this is multifaceted as far as the challenge is concerned. It is not only performance, it is also about your ability to tell jokes. It is about your ability to be succinct. You have to be able to sing at least decently well or rap decently well. And then there's of course the runway portion. So there's a lot baked into this challenge. I'm not mad that it's here in Down Under vs. the World, because I think it's a really fun challenge in general to incorporate a lot of those pillars of Drag Race all meshed into one. But I think with this group, I would have liked to have seen a more traditional roast, because I think what the problem was here, there's just not enough time to really dive into every joke. There were a lot of half-baked jokes, there were a lot of numbers that were close, and we're gonna talk about those in extension very soon. But I think the overall problem is that there just wasn't enough time to create humor. When it comes to the rap and roast, they have to write all their material, figure out what the best nuggets are, and only include one of them. And there's a lot of potential for this group to be really funny and roast the dog shit out of each other. And I would have liked to see a more traditional roast. Maybe a rap and roast is something that could happen at top 5, where everyone could get a minute and a half of roasting time, rather than the cool 45 seconds they all got, if it was even that. Another note about the roast is that the music composition was a little out of whack. I had a very difficult time hearing what the queens were saying, because their voices were down here and the music audio was here. The whole time it was like when you go to the club and you're trying to talk to your friend, I'm gonna go to the bar and get a drink. Someone peed in the sink. And so I feel like whoever was in charge of mixing did a piss poor job at making sure that the queens were the highlight here. And I think that problem specifically impacted Flor, who chose to do some of her roasting in Spanish. Jade So decided to incorporate some Tagalog. And while I do think there is something very cool about that, and I appreciate that they infuse their own culture into it, I think it was hard because the audio mixing was terrible. You could barely hear them. And so when you're having to pay attention that much more to a joke to understand all the nuances of it, and the way that language plays into that, I think it makes for a more difficult listening experience if they can't hear you. And so I fully blame the sound design team because I don't think that Flor deserved to be bottom 2, and we'll get into that. And on the runway, the category is diamonds are a drag queen's best friend. So let's get into my personal rankings where I cumulatively scored based on the performance, the jokes that they had, as well as their runway. In my very bottom position, in 7th place for me, was Coco Jumbo, sadly. She started out this episode by manifesting way too much negativity. And when you start putting out into the world, I'm not funny, I'm not intelligent enough to do this, I can't do this challenge, you're already setting yourself up to fail. There's a lot of power in delusionally telling yourself, I can do this, I'm gonna slay this, I'm gonna eat. But by starting with all that negativity, she manifested into the world that she wasn't going to do well. The producers are always listening to that, and I think sometimes when it comes to choosing the bottom 2, I do believe sometimes they pick based on what's being said in the workroom. If someone says, oh, I'm not gonna be good at this challenge, they hear story. In the challenge, I thought Coco looked the most on theme. This is such a cool look for her. I think Coco had some good references, but not a lot of good jokes. Michael Maruli acts like posh, but she's actually scary. Great reference to the UK, referencing Spice Girls. Also, Michael Maruli did a Spice Girls look in Drag Race UK Season 5. So that was a cool one. I really liked the performance of extending the arm all the way out to do the peace sign. AR, don't forget the T. That means nothing. Well, it does to me. Bitch, that is such a great reference to Art's viral moment where she got eliminated in Down Under 1, and she specifically looked at the producers when they said, at least you were here. That means nothing. So good. That's a great reference, but it's not a joke, sadly. And then on the runway, oh, Coco. I really enjoy her, but I don't enjoy this. The problems start with that iridescent fabric because it's not a great base to build anything on top of. It's a pretty slick material, so it's kind of hard to attach things to, one, but because it's more of a slick material, it's soft, it is very malleable, and when you put heavy things on top of it, it kind of just collapses on itself. It's like trying to put something on top of jersey. It's not really gonna hold its shape very well, unless you put a lot of interfacing in it, and it doesn't look like that happened here. And so unfortunately, it's not holding up very well against that rhinestone mesh, which is an incredibly difficult textile to work with. Those rhinestone mesh nets are built very particularly. They're on a grid pattern. So when you start to cut into them, you're gonna get all those zigzags of where the fake gems don't cut through. You can't cut right down the middle of one of those gems, you have to cut around it. So you're gonna get a lot of wonky, choppy, zigzag lines, and that's exactly what you see here. All those imperfections are totally standing out. You could maybe get away with something like this if you were to put a trim on it, but it would have to be the perfect trim. Maybe there just wasn't time. Who cut this though? Edward freaking Scissorhands? There are awkward cuts everywhere, from the legs to the back, the arms. I hope that Coco does a charge back on whoever made this for her because this was sabotage. And I think pants on the runway are inherently gonna look a little cheaper, a little more pedestrian, and this blue iridescent that was chosen for those pants kinda makes it look like she's just wearing fitted jeans on the runway, which honestly may have just been a better stylistic choice. It's a chop, sadly. In my 6th position is Miss Jade So, who dodged a crazy bullet this week, but I think should have been bottom 2. Jade got to choose the order of the wrap roast, which I think in a pre-recorded lip sync challenge, it doesn't really matter too much where people go. I don't know why they even bother with giving them the ability to choose the order. Like, it really doesn't matter at all. They don't get to adjust what they're gonna say in the moment. If someone takes their joke and they hear it there, it's not like a regular roast where they can go, okay, scratch that out, rewrite it, here's my backup joke. They're locked in with whatever they already recorded. She looks great first off in the challenge, but all her jokes were a bit cold. I couldn't even toast a piece of bread with the heat she was putting on these queens. It's just a lot of Mother Goosey writing. Floor, we don't want to see you no more. Art, smells like a fart. Coco, she put her Jumbo as the Dumbo. I don't know, those are not impressive, they're not funny, there's not really a lot of thought into them, it's just rhyming. And for me, the juxtaposition of the Tagalog and the English made it kind of hard to follow the jokes. And overall, I don't feel like she went anywhere with the material. If you're just gonna rhyme words together, they need to be freaking hilarious, and they weren't. And on the runway, she comes out in this massive cone of a look. We've seen so many of this religious iconography into slut hoe on Drag Race. I'm thinking specifically Hanaconda in UK vs. the World, Lady Quero in Mexico 1, and I want to say Kimmy Couture did something like this too, but I could be misremembering. I'm known to do that. I've seen way too much Drag Race. But I do think this was the most logical of those because it's actual commentary about the weaponization of religion used to harm not only queer folks, but specifically trans-identifying people. And Jade talks about how trans women are often told to cover up and to not show parts of them. I do wonder if that conversation has anything to do with the scandal that happened. If you know, you know. I'm just being messy here. This is a great message to share on Drag Race. I think this is the platform to talk about that, to talk about the harm of religion towards especially trans people, but also queer folks, because Drag Race globally is kind of in its appealing to the conservative right to try and make them think that drag is not harmful or dangerous. And I don't think that we need to be appealing to them. I don't think we need to make them feel better or coddle them. We need to make sure that they know that they have harmed people and they continue to do so. This is definitely pretty, and I appreciate its messaging. I appreciate the look. It's just missing some diamond tessa for me. It looks like it's meant to be a religious runway. It looks like it's meant to be a gold runway. It's a sleigh, but not for this brief. And that's why she's low. It's off topic for me. In my 5th position is Flor, who I do not think was bottom 2 this week. Not the worst, by a landslide yet again. There have been multiple weeks where I'm like, this was not Flor's week to be in the bottom 2. She looks great in the challenge, but I think where she fell flat were that her jokes were observations. And she's a naturally funny person. When she's talking in her confessionals, I'm giggling at the things she says because she is very funny. And there's a lot of folks who, when you tell them, write down jokes and do a set, they're unable to apply that natural charismatic humor they have into a routine. And I do think that Flor may be one of those people, because even in Down Under 3, she was very funny when she just needed to improv and talk as herself. At least I found her to be. And I think it's difficult when you gotta actually sit down and read things off a script. Again, a lot of her jokes were observational. She said that art was always in her head and can't wait till she fails. And then it hilariously cuts to art making a face like, is that a read? She called Lala a piñata, which like some of her drag does look very piñata-like, but again, it's an observation, it's not a joke. It was close. I think this type of format doesn't lend itself to a good so I don't know, maybe an effective way to do a challenge like this is the way that Raja read all the queens in season 3 for their reading challenge. Fat, ugly, syphilis. Maybe that's the way you gotta do it. Just do whatever the easiest low-hanging fruit is, and then wherever you've got time to embellish, do so. And then on the runway, come on. This is stunning. The ice blue works incredibly well on her complexion. Those gems hanging everywhere, I wanna touch it. I wanna grab it. You ever see a chandelier that's just hanging and it's beautiful and it's got all those crystals that are dangling and you just wanna reach up and be like, that's what this does. It's like something really pretty you see and you wanna instinctually touch it. I'm obsessed with the shape and the cut. It is perfect for this theme, very on topic, stunning, wamana, glam. It's to die for. This is gorgeous. Slay. In my 4th position is Art Simone. In the challenge, I think she looks great in pink. This is actually one of my favorite looks all season from Art. I really, really like this. Art's problem in the challenge is that her jokes were quick. There was no breathing room. And it's a tough balance in this challenge to be able to get right to the point, but not fill up every single
thing that you're saying with words and content so that the audience can't even hear what you're saying. They don't have the time to breathe and catch up with what your joke is.
That's what I think what the problem was here. Because digging into these lines, there's actually some gems. Queens are two-faced, but by the look, she has 6. You could interpret that as Art observing that Flor is acting different with every queen in the room. Her and Vibe seem like they're recognizing that Flor is not necessarily Team Down Under anymore. You could interpret that as work done. And so I think there's something there that's a funny joke. From across the pond, Maruli thinks she's royalty. She may be a queen, but she's Camilla, not Lizzie. That's It's intellectual. Intellectual. And that maybe requires a bit more knowledge on the royal family or a bit more immersion in that Michael would be in on the joke for. Michelle would be because she loves UK culture, but I think the average Drag Race viewer might not understand the impact of that joke. My partner is completely obsessed with the royal family and tells me all these unnecessary factoids about the royals because he just finds it fascinating that it's an establishment that still exists in 2026. So I understand what this joke is, and I do think there is potential for that to be really funny, just there's not enough time. She has to spike her makeup sponge to go near her face. Again, a great joke there. She has to get her sponge drunk in order to come near her. There's a really smart joke there that's hit by a wall because it's the how many drinks joke. I'm over explaining it, which means that it's not funny, but it has potential. It hits a wall. All of her content are highly intellectual leaping points that don't go anywhere. It's not good for a rap and roast when you need to be a bit more concise. And then on the runway, so this is a solid fabric when you're trying to create a visually interesting diamondy look. Art mentions all of your forgotten jewelry, and I really hope that these are remnants of earrings that fell apart, of secondhand and thrifted jewelry, because I remember a queen back in the nightclub years ago talking about how she just had a box of all the jewelry that broke apart. Rings, necklaces, bracelets, bangles, anything that fell apart and lost stones, she'd keep them in a little box, and when it filled up, she'd go to her designer and say, put all these on a costume, make something cool for me. They would put an outfit together, glue all the stones on there, and it was this really cool, intricate design that was just loud and spectacular because it was covered in jewels that couldn't be used anymore. I really hope that's what this was. I love this Grace Jones kind of silhouette meets Kylie Minogue. That dense sequin fabric is gonna hold up extremely well with all of this hardware that's been glued onto it. It is striking, it is very cool. I am wild about this. I would wear this in a heartbeat. Slay. In my third position is Lala Ri. In the challenge, I think she looks amazing. God. I love the texture of this outfit. I love all the different shapes that are being played with. And most importantly, I love the color storyline that happens this entire week for Lala, because she has red and black represented throughout the entire night, from her challenge look to her runway to her lip sync outfit. This was divine intervention that happened, or incredible planning on her part. And there's a progression of a color storyline, which I always get really excited about from a fashion point of view. I thought she had some great musicality and rhythm, but it was kind of the same problem that Jade So had. It was a lot of rhyming without jokes. Help me out with this one. Knockoff ass Trixie, monotone ass bitch, gives me nothing Whitney. I don't understand what that's saying. She's calling Vibe a knockoff Trixie, saying that she's super successful and does a lot. I don't know if calling someone a knockoff Trixie is a read, considering that Trixie is probably the most successful drag queen in the world next to RuPaul. Gives me nothing Whitney. Is this a housewife reference? Or is she talking about Houston? And that's why she's dead. I don't get that. I don't understand it. I would love some illumination if anyone has it for me. Coco the Jumbo Dumbo. Jade said that too and it wasn't funny then. Michael Maruli, you really are a foolie. It's giving me eeny meeny miny mo, all these girls have got to go. This joke I did like. Art Simone, congrats on your win. Sis, I really hope you use that money and invest in a new chin. Loved that. That was great. But also I don't think that Art needs a new chin. And then she says to Jade So, the universe told me to tell you this real slow. Shut the up. Is that funny? I don't think it is. And here's my biggest issue. Reese tells Flor in critiques that there's gotta be a level of love that is shown in a roast. And telling someone that they smell like does not display love. But telling someone to shut the up is? It's not. I don't like when critiques are inconsistent between queen to queen, and if you're gonna get on one for maybe being too harsh, you have to get on the other one for doing the exact same thing. And on the runway, Lala Ri looks absolutely stunning, coming out looking very elegant. I love this message that she wanted to share by keeping the diamonds black and using that as a vehicle to talk about wars and slavery that are fueled by the diamond industry. I think there's some great messaging in that. Again, this is a great platform to talk about that on. This is a global world stage. A lot of eyeballs are gonna be watching. A lot of people are gonna be hearing. And we don't talk enough about how the diamond industry is a major scam. Next page. I think she looks quite glam. The cut of this dress looks amazing on her. The styling choice though is what falls a little flat for me. Flatter than her hair, because what is that? It takes me out of the fantasy just a little bit when you've got this beautiful, gorgeously scaled gown and then your hair is like, and all the volume's back here. It's like the opposite problem of those queens that build all the volume in the front and then they turn to the side and their hair is like, it's a soft slay. In my second position is Michael Maruli. She had this effortless swag about her in the challenge and I loved that look. That was my favorite of the entire night. I think she started off with some poor jokes though, and I think everybody had some clunkers. I am never a fan of weight jokes. I think they're boring. I think there's other ways to comment on people's physical appearance that don't go for the low-hanging fruit of, you look big. There's something interesting about comparing a well-known media character looking like they ate the protagonist of their story. I think there's something in that is kind of fun, but they don't do anything comedically for me. You've got all the sex appeal of a school bus fire is insane. That's psychotic. The best joke was, you talk like your mother's kangaroos. Shut it down. And then the last joke to Miss Jade So, manifest that hoe back to the Philippines. Very smart, incorporating Jade's universal mysticism and manifesting. That was very funny. I think Michael had some brilliant lyric writing. They all flowed very well in the same way that Lala's did. And I think they were solid enough, even if I think the jokes were mostly easy. Michael could have gone a lot harder in a format like a traditional roast. And then on the runway. This is quite conceptual for Michael. We often see her go camp, we've seen her do glamour. We haven't really seen her do anything this artistic so far on Down Under versus the World, so I'm glad she got to showcase this side of her drag because this is kind of a similar line to her Slaycation look from UK5 where she came out as that big postcard. The structure of that black velvet gown was super cool. Black velvet! And the shape of the diamond is super interesting. But are we gonna acknowledge that Michael Maruli spontaneously firebended on the runway and that it was not acknowledged at all in her confessionals or on the runway? What was it meant to accomplish? Because it looked like in one shot she had a button right here. There was a little red button that she had on her finger. So she probably clicked it and maybe the fire didn't go off right, or maybe it shocked her the way that it did, but then she's missing it in the next shot. And we know that the queens get 2 runway walks. So maybe during the music is when she did the fire, but I just don't really understand what that was meant to accomplish. The look is cool in any case, it's a slay. And then in my number 1 spot is Vibe. I love the majority of her jokes and I think they were very funny. Do you remember season 3, Floor? No, me either. It's the reason Rue escaped and did the book tour. Devastating. That is such a good read because a lot of people critique Down Under 3 as being the reason why Rue no longer goes down there. So digging at Floor and saying she's the reason why Rue doesn't want to be there anymore is so hateful, but it's very funny. There's a great joke there. Lala retiree, the weakest one here outside of Coco's knee. I love a 2-in-1, and it doesn't comment on Coco's weight. And then to Coco, she can count her own IQ with 1 hand and a finger. In my opinion, I think that Vibe had the most unique jokes. Things that I've not heard before in a roast or in a comedy set. And I think in a format like this, I would love to hear things that I've not ever heard before. And that's hard in comedy. Lala Retiree is so damn good. God. On the runway, Vibe did not get the most points from me because I like this look. I enjoy the simplicity of it. I think there is something to say about just a clean and subtle look. I enjoy what's going on with the silhouette. I love the fascinator in the hair. There's something kind of retro future about it. But that drape of fabric from the front to the back, it doesn't excite me. It's so unpleasing. It looks like it was meant to be a cape or some type of draped skirt. And then it just got tacked onto this garment in the front and in the back. And I don't understand why. Even when she walks in the back, it looks like something fell off because her butt cheek is hanging out of it. I don't really get the point of that. And so that brought its score down a bit. I love the sparkle on the runway. I like the fabric choice. There's a lot of great elements here. It could have been cleaned up a little bit and been a phenomenally spectacular look. During critiques, I want to bring up that Michelle referenced Willem's beatdown by saying, emphasis on the wrong syllable. We love a Willem's beatdown girly. And she did encourage Art to try some different makeup going forward. She said she wanted something a little more womana. And while I appreciate that and I agree, I would love to see Art do something a little more subtle. It kind of always bothers me when the more artistic makeup is challenged to do something feminine, but then the femme girls are not asked to do something artistic. The top two this week are called as Michael Maruli and Lala Ree, and I think for the storyline of it all, starting the week with two of them saying, we gotta get some of these Down Under girls out of here, two of them being the top two and the bottom two being Down Under queens, Flor and Coco Jumbo, I think there was some interesting follow through, but I don't believe that Flor was the worst of the week. I don't understand why the judges are gunning for her so much. She hasn't been doing that badly all competition. But to be fair, they had the same response to her the first time. There were plenty of challenges that she could have won, that they paid her dust for. They told her that she was weak in challenges that she wasn't. And I don't know why there's a resistance to giving her her flores. In Untucked, I talked about this last week, but the misdirection of this cast continues because Lala Ree makes it seem like she certainly is ready to get Flor out of there. Makes it seem like she's very here for Coco's energy, that she really enjoys her presence. And so I do wonder what the determining factor was for Lala choosing to eliminate Coco instead of Flor. There's a lot to postulate here, but I can only assume that the thought process was, if we get out Coco, that's gonna distract Vibe. And maybe there's a chance to then whack Vibe out of here too. If we can distract her enough with losing her friend, maybe she won't be focused on the competition anymore. On the other hand, this could backfire and it could galvanize Vibe into getting out an international queen. And next week is gonna be an acting challenge. So I have a feeling I know who's not gonna do well, and I worry that Vibe is gonna get her lick back. The lip sync song is Devil Made Me Do It by RuPaul, and at first I was kind of bummed because we just saw a RuPaul song in Latino Royale and then a RuPaul song here, so I was like, no, I want some variety. But this was phenomenal. I loved Michael at the very beginning doing the dances and then being like, who did that? And I think both of them displayed incredible levels of musicality, of rhythm, of understanding their bodies. Michael has this control over her body in a way that would snap me in half if I tried to do them. And this was one of the best lip syncs this year, right next to Aurora and Michaela in Black Eye for Canada's Drag Race All-Stars. Lala is ultimately called as the winner, and after a little bit of mind gaming with Flor, she chooses to eliminate Coco Jumbo, which was a gag. And Art and Vibe were cracked in the back. They had no idea that this was coming. I think they fully expected Lala to save Coco Jumbo. And with that confessional that they're seeing Flor's alliances shifting, I cannot wait to see where this is going storyline-wise. And this is why I'm looking forward to Down Under versus the World before anything else, because it is legitimately holding me by the throat, and I kind of like it. But this elimination sucked. This elimination would have sucked no matter who went home, because at this point in the competition, everyone is super strong. And next up is an acting challenge, which, yuck, first off. And I'm a little worried about Miss Jade So because she was bottom 2 in the Philippines acting challenge. And Michelle didn't really seem to like what Flor did in their acting challenge. She specifically critiqued her on some stuff that I completely disagree with because I think that Flor was the best that week. I think that Art and Vibe are gonna be phenomenal. I think that Lala Ree's gonna be phenomenal. And I think Michael Maruli's gonna be phenomenal. But also Michael was in the bottom unjustifiably in UK 5 for their acting challenge. I still thoroughly disagree with that. It should have been her and Caramel winning that challenge. And it should have been Tamara and Didi in the bottom too, but that's another story. I feel like because storylines keep getting followed through on, I do believe that maybe we're gonna see a bottom 3 of Michael, Flor, and Jade So. And I do believe we're gonna see Vibe and Art in the top 2, with Lala potentially also breaking up there as well. And since we're at that really tight part of the competition, if you're not in the top, you're in the bottom. And now is really where it's gonna start sucking for these eliminations. Not like it hasn't already. What'd y'all think about this week's challenge and the outcome? Let me know in the comments below. If y'all would like to check out the Patreon and support this page, I would really appreciate that. And next week is my birthday, so I'm gonna try to post something special for the 1st of September, so keep an eye out for that. And thank you for watching. I'll see y'all on the flip.